Hi guys, welcome to another audio video interpreting Acts 22 of the King James Version Bible, and it reads, Men, brethren, and fathers, hear ye my defense which I make known unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence, and he saith, I am verily a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in the city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward God, as ye all are this day. And I persecuted this way unto the death, binding and delivering into prison both men and women, as also the high priest doth bear me witness, and all the estates of the elders, from whom also I received letters unto the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem for to be punished. And it came to pass that, as I made my journey, and was come nigh unto Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me, and I fell unto the ground, and heard the voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. And they that were with me saw indeed the light, and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. And I said, What shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said unto me, Arise, and go into Damascus, and there it shall be told thee of all the things which are appointed for thee to do. And when I could not see for the glory of that light, being led by the hand of them that were with me, I came into Damascus. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there, came unto me and stood, and said unto me, Brother Saul, receive thy sight. And the same hour I looked up upon him. And he said, The God of our fathers hath chosen thee, that thou shouldest know his will, and see the just one, and shouldest hear the voice of his mouth. For thou shalt be his witness unto all men of what thou hast seen and heard. And now, why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized, and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord. And it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance, and saw him saying unto me, Make haste, and get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive thy testimony concerning me. And I said, Lord, they know that I imprisoned and beat in every synagogue them that believed on thee. And when the blood of thy martyr Stephen was shed, I also was standing by, and consenting unto his death, and kept the raiment of them that slew him. And he said unto me, Depart, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles. And they gave him audience unto this word, and then lifted up their voices, and said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. And as they cried out, and cast off their clothes, and threw dust into the air, the chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle, and bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, Yea. And the chief captain answered, With a great sum obtained I this freedom. And Paul said, But I was freeborn. Then straightway they departed from him, which should have examined him. And the chief captain also was afraid, after he knew that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him. On the morrow, because he was he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews. He loosed him from his bands, and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Paul down and set him before them. Alright guys, so here we see where Paul, in this chapter, Paul speak unto them, and Paul gave his testimony to them, the testimony of how it was that he was a persecutor of Christians, he was a persecutor of the people of God, but the Lord called him himself and told him, gave him a charge to minister to his people and to carry out his work on the face of the earth. And these people hearing still did not believe and receive. And that's not on Paul, but that's on the people that heard the testimony and did not believe. Right? And we see in a previous chapter where Paul had said the same to them, that it is on them, their own blood is on their heads and not on him, because he already passed on the word of God to them, and he preached to them. And the fact that they have hardened their hearts against the word of God was not on Paul, but on them as individuals. He has carried out his work, the work that God had given him. So he cannot make them come to God. They have to desire to come to God, and that's their decision. He cannot force them. They have free will. And so he had done his part, and so it was time for them to do theirs. If they wanted to follow after God, they should. He cannot force them to. Now, here we see that even though Paul was a Roman, he was a Roman by birth, and Romans are free. They're not bound. And they were basically the supreme powers. And so we see that they're not supposed to be held bound by anyone. But here it was that he was being held bound, he was being held prisoner. And so when the chief captain heard this, and when they all heard this, they had to let him loose. Right? And we see that there's a lot of confusion going on here within this chapter. And so we see that the chief captains were confused, and so they had to ask for clarification. And it would appear as though it was that Paul was somewhat confused also, because, let's not say confused, but Paul knew what he was doing. Paul knew what he was doing when he spoke, and when he spoke within their language, that's the first. And when he told them of who he was, because as you saw, he was speaking in their own tongue, he was speaking in Hebrew, to let them know that, okay, to let them understand what was being said to them. And not only that, even though he spoke in Hebrew, he was a Roman, and he knew what he had to speak in that language in order for the message to be received by the people in their translation, so they could understand what he was saying. So the message was directed at them, and so he had to say it in that language for them to receive it. He had to give the testimony in their language so they would understand, because that was for them. And here we see that he's speaking to the chief captain now, and he's telling the chief captain, look, I'm a Roman. And that's making the distinction that you need to know what to do and when to do it. Here we see that he gave the testimony in Hebrew so that he could portray the information, he could relay the information to the people, his testimony, so they could understand where he's coming from, and they can understand how it was that he was converted and how he was convicted by God, and now he is a follower of Christ. And we see where in this instance he's also telling the chief captain that he's a Roman, highlighting the fact of who he is so that they would actually set him free at that point, because obviously the work was not yet done within him that God had intended. And so we need to know when we need to be tactful, and we need to say what we need to say. Not all facts are to be revealed at will, but it needs to be according to the will of God. If you get what I'm saying, I hope I didn't lose anybody there. But guys, please remember to continue to walk in your salvation, follow the will of God. And if you've not yet gained that salvation, then seek it. There's no better time to begin than the present. Have yourselves a blessed day. Bye.